Hello and welcome to your Eve Echoes weekly news update. I'm Daemonxel, and before we get started, if you can just hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, and you can be kept up to date with all this channel has to offer. I just want to take this time and thank all of you who are watching, who are subscribed to this channel. You've got this channel over 1,000, and I'm extremely thankful and humbled by the outpouring of support. Maintenance came in like a very subtle breeze, bringing with it only 2 changes this week. The only real hiccup was for pilots who have bound their account to Facebook, where an issue on Facebook's side prevented these pilots from logging in until after an hour after the servers were scheduled to come back online. The first fix was an issue with placing purchase orders in the system without a trading center, while the other was to fix an issue with pilots not being able to late claim past login rewards. I've not seen too many bugs this week, but they are out there, such as the warp animation bug still being a thing. I have heard, though, 2 which are pretty big. The first is more of a mechanic exploit, really. Asteroid belts and clusters despawn once mined and withdrawn from it, but as with anomalies, if someone still inhabits the area, it will not despawn. Players have seized on this mechanic to bring industry in some systems to a halt. A cloaked pilot can sit within a belt that is empty, not allowing it to despawn and create a new one. So a fleet of cloaked alts can actually prevent belts from forming at all in some systems. The other I need to research a bit more, but several people have submitted tickets for destroyed ships because they had logged out in a trade system with no autopilot set, and when they log back in the next day, they're sitting in a pod with their combat log showing that they died deep out in null space. Some are saying it's an autopilot glitch, while some conspiracy enthusiasts are claiming that they got hacked. Until more info is provided, I am not making any assumptions. The pilot name and portrait change option is now implemented in the game. To do this, all you have to do is tap your character's portrait and use the menu by clicking character and then tapping the edit icon. Your first name and appearance change is free, with every subsequent changes costing 500 Plex. On the official Discord, they decided to run a battle screenshot contest where 5 winners will win an Omega combo and another 5 winning the basic Omega. Winners will be announced on the 7th of October. Plex has risen from 245,000 to climbing over 300,000. With all the changes being made, now that we can use Plex to do other things, you can only assume that it's going to continue to climb. So by now, I don't see it going any lower. As we march closer to soft release, there have been increasing tensions between all those living out in Null, with several wars in full swing and others just starting. The Silent Alliance had a few major engagements this week, starting off with the attack on a Triple V station. The Silent Alliance brought 120 cruisers with a small contingent of Terran Federation cruisers, about 20, to kill the Triple V station in Vale. The defense fleet consisted of 430 ships. I say this and it seems like an extreme number, but this wasn't just a run-up and punch battle. This fight lasted for over 5 hours, with pilots going in and coming out. Defense was managed by the forces of Triple V fielding 300 ships, Honk with 60 Omens, and believe it or not, North with 70. Now I say believe it or not because just a week prior, it was North forces hitting the Triple V outpost, and they were routed by Triple V and Honk. Differences were hashed out, and they now stood as a united shield against the invaders. Silent came to the station before the timer, fit for short range, and broke through a Honk gate camp killing 15 Omens, then set up on the field. While waiting anxiously for the timer to dwindle, they camped and picked off forces rallying on the station. Around the 2-hour mark, North came onto grid fit for long range as the station became killable. Silent forces pursued North further away from the station, allowing Triple V to undock 200 ships as Honk rejoined with their remaining Omens. As with any huge fight in Echoes, lag is always the constant enemy of all, and it plucked pilots from all sides of the grid, with disconnects and spikes. While fighting completely outnumbered, between 2 forces, the Silent Alliance could not capitalize on the timer and had to settle for pushing the shield timer later in that fight. Key ships and Silent fleets were brought down just before the timer expired. After the station was out of danger of being destroyed, Honk and North forces stood down and withdrew. Silent Alliance pulls back to the station, killing Triple V pilots and pushing the shield timer. Silent Alliance killed over 150 ships while losing few quite expensive ships. After speaking with all parties, it appears Triple V took the brunt of the losses, while Honk reports 17 and North 4. Later in the week, the Silent Alliance hit another outpost, this time owned by the Outer Rim Corporation, protected by the Golden Horde. The location of this outpost was posted on Reddit, and I have not ascertained whether the Silent Alliance received their intel from this post or from their own scouts. 45 minutes before completion of anchoring, SHHH made an initial entry into the system of 8 Tech SPNN, with the apparent intent to destroy the outpost. The fleet was 145 strong in what has been nicknamed the Hero Doctrine. Upon this initial entry, Silent suffered light casualties with only 4 losses. After the skirmish, they regrouped and landed on grid with the station. The Golden Horde and Void presented a solid wall of ships totaling 335 pilots. Both primary fleets were balled up at sniper distance under logistics cover. During the initial 30 minutes of battle, there were light losses on both sides as the Horde force turtled up on the outpost. One notable moment that left both the Silent Alliance and the Golden Horde a bit surprised, and that also pushed local to a peak total of 555, was the arrival of a third fleet of 75 pilots from the BADP Alliance. As the clock wound down to begin the 15-minute vulnerable period, a mixed fleet of stealth bombers and cruisers from BAPD and a couple other Asian-based alliances jumped the gate forces of Void Alliance and exchanged losses. Upon conclusion of that skirmish, BAPD jumped into 8 Tech SPNN and warped to the station in a disjointed, scattered manner and were quickly obliterated in under 60 seconds of landing on the grid. It was over so quickly that in post-battle discussions, it took the Horde and Silent leaders some time to figure out that this Asian player group had been operating independently from either force. After the outpost came online, the Horde strategy shifted from securing the outpost to holding and clearing the field, while the Silence had changed to inflict maximum damage to the enemy fleet. Over the course of the additional 90 minutes, constant attempts to gain position with T4 frigates was made, and there were several times that the Horde fleet nearly gained an opportunity to deal a significant blow. To the credit of their commander, the Silent fleet did well maintaining their sniper doctrine through significant lag and suffering acceptable losses throughout. With the battle being in the Horde's home region, their frigate pilots were able to reship and rejoin the battle quickly. As the engagement entered its third hour, the sides were like two heavyweights trading body blows as the fleet strength had shifted from the initial 310 and 145 to 145 and 98. With the attempts to break the Silent sniper doctrine unable to find the mark, the Horde fleet commander made a second major tactical shift and presented the Silent Alliance a choice. The Horde forces all warped to and jumped through the B-Tech T6BT gate and embargoed their own system. This left the Silent the opportunity to decide whether to either put the station into reinforcement or to start talks. Mr. Pay-to-Win initiated contact with the station owner, and an introduction to the Horde executor, Jarl Bo, was made. After pleasantries and compliments were exchanged, the discussion of the end of the engagement was laid out. It was mutually decided that for the future goodwill between the two powers, that all would stand down and return home. Good fights were saluted all around as the two great powers traded blows. The battle was looked upon as a success from both sides, with the Silent Alliance dealing significant ISK damage to the Horde in the tune of 5.7 billion and 220 ships killed, while the Horde sees it as the successful defense of the outpost. A battle between Soon Alliance and the Golden Horde in system LJ Tech RJK took place. Soon Alliance entered the region of Catch with a fleet of 30 cruisers, heavy on Caracal and Caracal Navy, with MOA Guardians providing protection during Euro peak time. The Golden Horde Alliance sent out a CDA and quickly amassed a large response fleet of 200 and caught up to Soon in a dead-end system. After a 30-minute standoff, Corp CEO Captain Waizu parlayed with Valhalla CEO and executor Jarl Bo. Respects and pleasantries were exchanged for the initial response and skirmish tactics prior to the current standoff. The Soon fleet commander indicated that his players would not jump through the gate camp and would instead log off in that dead-end system, if not engage within the next 5 minutes. Dalbo and the Golden Horde fleet commander conferred and considered Soon's advantageous range and fleet composition on their side of the gate. By this point, the Golden Horde fleet numbered upper 200 and true kitchen sink of 85 mixed cruisers and a large frigate contingent. As the Golden Horde alliance engaged across the gate, Soon effectively maintained their distance, inflicting significant frigate losses early in the engagement. A few minutes into the battle, the Golden Horde was able to gain position on the Soon fleet and to swarm them. Approximately 20 of the Soon fleet were destroyed in this battle before withdrawing from the field, including that Moa Guardian. The Golden Horde lost approximately 60 ships, 50 frigates, and 10 mixed cruisers, while the Soon alliance, whose losses totaled 250 million, inflicted greater ISK losses upon the Horde to the tune of 1.2 billion. The war between Trimarch and Op-Force continues with another attack on a Red Outpost. This was a Phase 2 timer, and Op-Force sent 130 pilots to defend, with another 50 held in reserve. Trimarch, flying frigs and destroyers totaling 40 pilots, first skirmished with Op-Forces on the gate before landing on grid. Skirmish fire was exchanged before Trimarch, taking losses, returned back to their home system, where Op-Force was waiting in line for them at their station. A lot of hit-and-run tactics like these have been happening all week, Trimarch running in and pushing multiple Red Outposts into shield reinforcement and returning home, while Op-Force camps their station systems. There's an interesting twist in this war in the form of a competition started by the Op-Force leadership, targeting Trimarch and its allies with bonus modifiers for Trimarch kills, kills in their HQ NPC station, and kills in the Aquarius on hostile pilots. At this point in the contest, 6 pilots have accumulated well over 150 kills on Trimarch and its allies, with a total estimated value of over 6 billion ISK. I will have the totals and the ultimate winner in this next week. Trimarch gets a station kill this week. A small industry alliance of 2 corps and around 200 members named LOLS reached out to leadership in Trimarch to speak about getting allied with and added to the coalition. The thing is, Trimarch and the QC gets about 5 to 10 corp alliances a day coming to them in the same fashion, so applications do get drowned out or lost if they're not good options for the coalition to pursue. LOLS alliance Dippos talks fell apart with Trimarch after about 3 or 4 days, and they decided to just plop a station down in Aquarius, thinking that maybe the QC would see that they mean business and that it would bolster their attempts to get noticed and added to the coalition. The issue was that 48 hours prior to this, they had just gone to battle with Op-Force over their outpost in Ketch, so from their point of view, an unknown entity just dropped the station in their space. QC couldn't tell if this entity was being backed by their enemies to put a station there as some sort of forward outpost to launch attacks from. So, being that they are in war times, LOS's timing was terrible. So the QC approached them and started negotiations. The guy was saying that he wanted to get into the coalition and that he'd transfer ownership and he'd unanchor it and move it since the anchor when the anchor was finished, but the risk was too high. If they let him anchor it and he didn't follow through with that promise to unanchor it, instead it would be fueled and online, and they'd be left with 3 timers to worry about and a possibility of 7 days to clear it out, or have a bunch of hostiles with a base of operations on their back doorstep. The pocket he put the station in had already been allocated to another alliance within the coalition, so regardless, the station had to go. They ended up offering the guy the best thing they could think of, and if he truly intended on joining the coalition and being friendly, he would take him up on the offer. The only thing they could think of to guarantee that he stuck to his word was to offer a bond. He would pay the bond to honor his promise, and that the QC would hold the bond until he unanchored the station and removed it. Since an outpost is valued at around 7 billion ISK market value, and how this guy was just throwing around money into a seriously risky power play, they set the bar pretty high. They said, "Pay us a bond of 7 billion ISK and we will not kill your station. You unanchor the station and we'll return 25% of that bond right then. And then once the station is removed, we'll return the bond fully and continue negotiations to enter the coalition the proper way." LOLS brushed the QC off with extortion claims, but he was in no position to barter. At this point, QC also has screenshots of him asking for backup in HighSec Local, reaching out to their enemies to see if someone could come help him protect it. He invited OpForce and Terran, among others that are currently targeting the QC, to help him, and they had screenshots of him in multiple hostile discords speaking to them about deals to help protect it. They continued the talks with the offer of the bond, but the guy refused, so with only 8 hours left before the outpost finished its anchoring, they kind of forced the QC's hand. They had to remove it. Seeing it as a hostile power play and no longer being backed by their enemy, but instead this guy trying to find enemies out to save it. The QC forced a 200-man fleet and ended up killing the station in the 15-minute window when it finished its anchoring. Rumors surfacing about the Mercenary Coalition taking contracts on behalf of large Null block alliances has proven to be false. The MC claims that OpForce has been spreading these rumors, and in a statement post on Reddit, Promise One said that the MC has taken no contracts against any major Null entity at this time. If you want the MC fighting for you, there are many ways to go about doing it. First is to contact Promise One via Discord and negotiate a contract. All contracts are written out and signed by both parties prior to payment, so there is a record of every contract just for little reasons like these rumors. They are aware that many people are throwing their name around as threats to different groups, so they are dispelling any rumors right now. When they get paid and are fully deployed, you will know about it. The Embers of War have been seen between PIBC and the Ethereal Legion. I have spoken to both parties and received very different statements. The only statement that matches up is that there have been no major engagements on either side that have occurred, and there have just been minor skirmishes. Ethereal Legion claims that a few weeks ago they found a Badr PI farm operation where between 200 and 600 PI cans would spawn around a planet, and happily, EL pilots scooped up the goods as found treasure. The farmer apparently reached out to EL to discourage further thefts and offered to pay Ethereal Legion for protection. The Legion accepted this offer with full intent on cleaning him out and reporting him to the depths. A few days after the double cross, his Corp joined an associated alliance of PIBC. PIBC was sharing space with EL and running ANOMs in this contested area, and reached out to the Legion leadership about a non-aggression pact, which the Legion feels that they were being strong-armed into accepting. Ethereal Legion, being 100% against botting and cheating, set PIBC to red with their coalition allies, the HAPBs, and thusly started this slow burn of a war. Kills have happened on all sides, with PIBC regularly camping their station. I have been told that PIBC has reached out several times to Ethereal Legion for peace talks. I've also been told that the first botting Corp has been expelled from that PIB associate alliance. PIBC leadership tells of a different story, stating that they are 100% against botting and cheating and are also victims of pilots engaged in these actions. They claim they reached out their hand in friendship and shared space cooperation, but claims that Ethereal Legion chose an incredible willingness for negotiation. They also claim that Ethereal Legion has been extremely hesitant to engage them in direct fleet combat. Since we're talking about the HAPBs, then we must talk about the ongoing hostilities between them and the Terran Federation. A battle occurred in Fountain between these two forces, which resulted in a B victory and a Terran fleet smashed. HAPB allies were set up above the Serpentis Prime, just off system, awaiting for their main fleet's arrival. Once the Del fleet stacked up, the entire fleet jumped into LQL at the same time from opposite sides. This bulk fleet was met with only minor resistance. All fleets joined together at Serpentis Prime and cleared the gate on both sides. B forces caught a Prophecy, a Hurricane, and other various ships, including a few stabbers, near the gate. They then jumped around the planets to align proper angles, using scout intel to jump to prime stations to clear out a few campers here and there and get the undocked fleets undocked to join the group. Once prime space was clear, they stacked up on the LQL gate and sent out their scouts, which saw the Terran forces amassing on the other side of the gate. The Del fleet was instructed on full maneuvers before action, and they jumped through and immediately warped to Planet 2 in LQL. They succeedingly warped through the formations, and this is where the cat and mouse game started. Using precise timed all-fleet warps with preset destinations and 60 km and 80 km intervals, they were able to bounce around all the planets, disorienting the Terran forces and picking off stragglers, dwindling down that opposing fleet. The remaining TF fleets got tired of being pulled into this game and reset on the Prime Gate at around 150 km. At this point, morale was high, and the Bees headed towards WY Tech 911 and started killing Reds there using the same tactics. The Bees were able to secure a Harbinger and another Prophecy, along with more Stabbers, as the gate was locked down. The TF force formed up on the other side of the gate, and we're going to try and hold them in that system. But a miscommunication must have happened because the fleet jumped through and was cut down. The B kill mill tally equals out to 3.4 billion ISK. During a conversation with a HAPB's diplomat, I was told of plans to evict Terran Federation from their home space by the HAPBs and their coalition of allies. Their allies being the Star Legion, Pandemonium, Cosmos, Ethereal Legion, and the Collective. However, with a handful of Requiem Corps splintering off and joining PIBC, I'm not sure when these plans will be put into motion. While looking for leads on stories, I came across this absolute gem posted on the official Echoes Facebook group. Enjoy. Also, if you need more news in your life, then check out the ENN, hosted by Sovereign RPG's page, for quick bursts of news throughout the week. The Echoes of New Eden podcast with Sean for news on the go, featuring community news and interviews, and EER News, which is EveEchoesRadios.com's live news broadcast. It airs Mondays and Fridays with community news and updates. Also, if you would like to support the channel, there will be a link in the description. And again, thank you for watching. I am Daemonxel, and as always, your enemy cannot disrupt you from within a pod. Have a great day.